Welcome, history buffs and casual clickers alike. Today, we're diving into the Revolutionary War. You know, that time when powdered wigs were the height of fashion, and people thought bathing more than once a month was excessive. We're busting the top 15 myths about the American Revolution, and trust me, you won't believe number 3. No, seriously. It'll blow your tricorn hat right off. Grab some popcorn, because we're going deep into the wild, weird, and occasionally ridiculous world of Revolutionary War myths. Myth number 1, Paul Revere shouted. "The British are coming!" Paul Revere, the Midnight Rider, galloping through the night screaming, "The British are coming!" Except, he didn't. First off, most people in the colonies were British. Yelling that would be like running through a high school shouting, "Teenagers are coming!" Instead, he likely said something like, "The regulars are out!" Not as catchy, but hey, it got the job done. Also, Revere wasn't alone. He had a squad. William Dawes and Samuel Prescott were also riding to warn people. Think of it as the original group chat, just on horseback. Plus, Revere didn't even finish his famous ride. He was captured. It was Prescott who made it the furthest. Per Dawes? He fell off his horse. Not exactly Hollywood material. Myth number 2, the Boston Tea Party was just about taxation without representation. Sure, taxes were part of it, but it wasn't just about paying a little extra for your morning Earl Grey. The colonists were also furious that Britain gave the East India Company a monopoly, undercutting local merchants. It was less. No taxation without representation. And more. Hey, stop messing with our side hustle. Also, did you know they dressed up as Mohawk Indians during the Tea Party? Yeah, because nothing says subtle rebellion like cosplay. And the best part? They cleaned up after themselves. That's right, after dumping 342 chests of tea into Boston Harbor, they swept the decks. Polite protest, revolutionary style. Myth number 3, George Washington had wooden teeth. Nope. Wooden teeth sound splintery and, frankly, like a dental nightmare. Washington's dentures were made from a mix of human teeth, animal teeth, and ivory, all held together with metal. Imagine biting into an apple with that setup. Yikes. Some of those human teeth were even purchased from enslaved people. Not exactly the heroic dental image we were hoping for. Washington's dental issues were so bad that he started losing teeth in his 20s. By his inauguration, he had only one natural tooth left. One tooth. Imagine smiling for your presidential portrait with that situation. Myth number 4, the revolution was supported by all Americans. Plot twist, it wasn't. Historians estimate that only about a third of colonists supported the revolution, another third were loyal to the crown, and the rest were like, "Can't we just chill and see how this plays out?" So, not exactly unanimous. Families were literally divided. You could have Thanksgiving dinner with a patriot and a loyalist arguing over mashed potatoes. The revolution was basically the original family drama, complete with awkward dinners, heated debates, and that one cousin who just wanted everyone to get along. Myth number 5, Betsy Ross designed the first American flag. Betsy Ross sewing the first American flag is a great story, but there's no solid historical proof. The tale didn't pop up until her grandson told it almost a century later. Which, let's be honest, sounds like the kind of thing your grandpa would brag about at Thanksgiving. The real flag design likely came from Francis Hopkinson, who even sent Congress a bill for his work. Spoiler, they didn't pay him. Betsy was indeed a talented upholsterer, but the whole "she designed the flag" thing? Probably a case of historical telephone, where facts get fuzzier with each retelling. Myth number 6, the Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th, cue dramatic record scratch. The Declaration was approved on July 4th, but most of the signatures weren't added until August. July 4th just sounded more festive, I guess. Plus, John Hancock's big, bold signature wasn't about flair. It was to make sure King George could read it without his glasses. Talk about petty goals. The signing process was more of a bureaucratic mess than an epic moment. Some delegates weren't even present on July 4th, and others signed much later. Not exactly the picture-perfect scene we imagine. Myth number 7, the Revolutionary War was all about freedom. Sure, freedom was a big theme, but it wasn't the whole story. Economic interests, territorial expansion, and a hefty dose of "we just don't like being told what to do" played major roles. Basically, it was freedom, with an asterisk. Plus, the irony of fighting for freedom while slavery was still legal wasn't lost on everyone. Some enslaved people even joined the British because they were promised freedom. Plot twist, indeed. The war was as much about who controlled power and resources as it was about lofty ideals. Myth number 8, the Redcoats wore bright red because they wanted to stand out. "Let's wear the color that makes us the easiest targets," said no military strategist ever. Red was actually the standard British military color, chosen for cost and availability. Plus, it was great for hiding bloodstains. Dark, I know. And contrary to popular belief, they didn't stand in perfect lines waiting to get shot. They adapted their tactics too. They weren't villains in red coats. They were professional soldiers doing their job. Also, red dye was cheap and durable, making it a practical choice. Less about fashion, more about function. Myth number 9. The winter at Valley Forge was constant fighting. When people think of Valley Forge, they imagine non-stop battles in the snow. In reality, it was more about surviving brutal conditions, training, and avoiding scurvy. Less epic war movie. More extreme camping trip from hell. Thanks to Baron von Steuben, the troops got some serious military training. Fun fact, he was openly gay, had a flair for drama, and cursed in multiple languages. The Revolutionary War's unsung icon. The real battle at Valley Forge was against cold, hunger, and disease. Soldiers built huts, rationed food, and tried to stay alive. Not glamorous, but essential. Myth number 10. America won the war all on its own. We love a good underdog story. But America didn't do it solo. The French played a huge part, providing troops, supplies, and naval support. So, technically, we had a little help from our baguette-bearing buddies. Spain and the Dutch also pitched in. It was less lone hero and more international group project where France did most of the work. Without the French Navy, the victory at Yorktown wouldn't have happened. Shout out to Lafayette, America's favorite Frenchman, who was basically the Revolutionary War's MVP. Myth number 11. The Founding Fathers were all united. Contrary to popular belief, the Founding Fathers weren't one big happy family. They argued a lot. Think of them like a group project where everyone wants to be in charge. Jefferson and Hamilton couldn't stand each other, and Adams and Jefferson had a famous falling out before reconciling late in life. Their letters are like the 18th century version of spicy Twitter threads. Myth number 12. Minutemen were super soldiers. Minutemen weren't some elite force of colonial ninjas. They were regular dudes with day jobs who agreed to be ready at a minute's notice. Hence the name. Some were well trained, others, not so much. Imagine your neighbor trying to be Rambo with zero prep. That's closer to reality. Myth number 13. The Liberty Bell rang on July 4, 1776. Sorry to burst your patriotic bubble, but the Liberty Bell likely didn't ring on July 4th. In fact, it wasn't even called the Liberty Bell back then. The name came later during the abolitionist movement. Also, it had a crack pretty early on, so constant ringing was not on its resume. Myth number 14. All colonists were poor farmers. Sure, many colonists were farmers, but there was a diverse range of occupations: merchants, artisans, shipbuilders, even lawyers, like John Adams. Cities like Boston and Philadelphia were bustling hubs with thriving businesses. Not exactly the everyone in overalls with a pitchfork vibe. Myth number 15. The revolution ended instantly with the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 officially ended the war, but the aftermath was messy. Loyalists faced persecution, debts were unsettled, and the new government struggled to find its footing. It was more awkward transition phase than happily ever after. And there you have it, 15 Revolutionary War myths busted. Hopefully, you learned something new, laughed a little, and realized history isn't just dusty old facts. It's full of weird, wild, and downright hilarious stories. If you enjoyed this trip through time, smash that like button, subscribe for more myth-busting adventures, and ring that bell icon so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and maybe double-check your history books.